Astrology Roast. I think it needs to sound like a shitty intro, like a funny shitty intro.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Astrology Roast. My name is Karen.
And for the third time this try, my name is Itai and we are back.
We sure are back. Now because we are knee deep, butt deep, mind deep, body deep, soul deep in the middle of Mercury retrograde in Pisces. This is the third, hopefully the final time that we have attempted to record this episode. The first time I didn't press record. The second time there was no memory card. The third time, I don't know what's going to happen. Are a bunch of lobster people going to invade my house? I mean, it would be a pretty good story, but no. But we're here. And for the third time, Itai, how has your week been?
Oh my God, how's my week been? How's the last 10 minutes have been for me? As an Aries, it's really hard for me. I do love beginnings and I do love to start things. But I think Mercury retrograde has fucked me up, and not only me, but many people. And even though, people always say, oh, stop blaming Mercury retrograde with your problems and it's your life sucks. It's not just these 2 weeks 3 times a year. I just want to say, give it to us. Just let us have our moment. Let us have these few weeks of a break of self-deprecating and blaming ourselves for everything, and just let us blame Mercury for once.
Yeah, wait, hang on. Would we say that this is something that we only do during Mercury retrograde? I mean, I feel like it's a strong theme of this podcast has been blaming oneself and saying that it's been a hard week. So I think there is a license to complain that we promote throughout all of our work. It's really our life's mission. But I love that the fact that not only have we tried to record this episode now 3 times, and, this isn't the first time this has happened during a Mercury retrograde. Usually all of our technology does seem to go bonkers. But I love that each time we've recorded this and I've asked you the same thing, how has your week been? You haven't used that as an opportunity to be like, oh, it's actually been okay. Or, here's the positive side. Each time you'd be like, it's been terrible. Like, it's horrible. And I'm complaining. So I hope that, maybe the 3 times we've recorded this have given you that opportunity to share with the world how shit or challenging this Mercury retro has been.
That's true. And you were born on a retrograde, so is it easier for you, as they say?
Yeah, they do say that, don't they? Well, I was born on Venus retrograde. What?
No, the sigh, I'm saying.
Oh.
You really had the sigh.
I thought you were... No, I thought you were saying, oh my God, it isn't recording again. And I was like, here we go. And your question around, is it easier for me? Well, that sigh, I know that sounded like it was a painful exhalation of grief and energy, but really maybe it is easier for me, not because I was born necessarily on a Mercury retrograde, but I have lived a life where I've become resilient to, grief and sitting with sadness. And I feel like I just am like, you know what, come at me. And the fact that Mercury is retrograding at the moment in Pisces, it's a very uncomfortable placement for Mercury retrograde. It doesn't like being there. It feels restless. It feels a bit odd. And I think people find that additional watery element of this particular retrograde, and also it's preceding the new astrological year. So it can create an extra restless tension. But I live amongst that restless tension all the time. That is my MO. That's my way of being. We've talked about this a lot. 5 planets in Gemini and counting, not that I'm showing off. So yeah, I feel like I'm just in it. I'm listening to a lot of Bon Iver on the couch. I'm thinking a lot about World War II and its impact on my family and the generations that have been and the generations to come.
Fair enough.
It's just a daily occurrence. And I just feel like if you lean into it, it's a real lesson in surrender and in relinquishing control. And I think if people can get behind that, which I know, Itai, you're a Virgo moon, you're an Aries, all of those things sound disgusting to you, relinquishing control, surrender, leaning in, all
moly.
of that. I can feel you shivering where you are. But if we can kind of get behind that as a concept, then maybe we can take the gifts of Mercury retrograde. We can use this as a time to review, to go over things, to rewrite the script if it's not working for us anymore. The fact that it's retrograding at the moment in Pisces means that maybe it's the deeper inner world that we need to check in with. How is your dream space? How is your spiritual side? How is your collective side? How is your substance use? Should it be more? Should it be less? Should it, what type of attitude do you have towards the ethereal or the spiritual? All these questions, which I feel like we only get there at the end of the astrological year. We can't get there, in a few months' time, in 6 months' time. It's a nice moment to reflect and to review. I'm really over it as well. I feel like I've done my time. I've served my time in the retrograde army, and I'm ready for Aries time, but we're there soon, and we'll get there.
So ready.
And we've got this.
But I do want to give a reminder of what Mercury retrograde could also be. And for that, I'm going to share a story of a classic Mercury retrograde moment that I had this weekend. So for those of you who have been listening to the podcast, you might have gathered the next few facts about me that I will use in the story. So the fact number one is that I'm a male, and even though my voice might suggest otherwise, if you made it to episode 73, you probably know that by now. If not, then this is your aha moment. The second fact is that I'm gay, and the third fact is that I grew up in a religious town and in a religious family, so in a Jewish Orthodox family. And all those facts are important for this story because this weekend I spent the weekend at my mom's house in my parents' hometown, and I was there and I knew it's Mercury retrograde, so I knew weird things are going to happen because, I put all the eggs in the basket of astrology, and when I grew up, I was in a religious school, so all boys school, and then it was a boarding school. So my high school, I didn't live at my parents' home. I lived in a boarding school, and obviously I fell in love with my best friend from age 0, which obviously was an Aquarius, as we know, the only star sign that I am able to love. And we were best friends, and we were in the same room in the boarding school. And then it was exactly this time of the year that I think I told this story, but I'm going to tell it shortly. This time of the year, it's Purim, it's the holiday, it's like Jewish Halloween, and one of the mitzvah, one of the things you have to do is you have to get drunk enough to forget who was the good guy and who was the bad guy in the story. So in a religious school, the teachers provide you with wine. So the first time I got drunk was actually in 9th grade when my rabbis bought the alcohol. So that is a little bit of my upbringing. So on that night, we got drunk. And that was the first time that I kissed a boy. And that boy happened to be my best friend, my Aquarius best friend that I was totally in love with. So this is the guy that I loved for the first 5 years, since then. So the entire high school and the year after, I was totally in love with him, obsessed with him. We made out a few times, but he was really straighty 180. I was, all my friends group was the gay kids, and his friend group was the soccer players, and we were kind of star-crossed lovers because none of my friends was his friends and none of his friends were my friends. And if you think I'm just reciting the storyline from Step Up, you're right, but that is also my life. So we were in love, and then I decided to get over him, blah blah blah. We stopped talking. And in the last 12 years, we never really spoke. The last time we spoke was when him and his female fiance, came to my house to give me the invitation to the wedding. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, is he so sad? Yes, it's sad, but also, you know how much I love a movie-like moment. So when they came to me, to give me my invitation, I was experiencing this whole this whole moment as if, oh my God, this is like my character in my movie. Like this is such a defining moment, which is also might be like disassociation, like leaving your body for the experience and looking at it from the other side. But anyway, this is what happened. So I'm walking around, and obviously I didn't go to the wedding. I'm walking around my hometown, and I haven't seen him in like 7 years. And I could tell I'm going to see him. I could just tell my Pisces in Mercury, my Mercury in Pisces could just tell something is going to happen. And then, little do I know, coming from the other side of the street, my first love, his wife, and their two beautiful boys that they have. And I was like, this is Mercury retrograde fuckery. And so I give him a hug, and I give his wife a hug, and I give his fucking kid a high five, and I like high five him, and thank God he high fived me back, because if I was rejected by this guy and then his son, his like 3-year-old son, I'd be like, this is it. Like my Aquarius dad, my Aquarius first boyfriend, probably his Aquarius son. I don't know his star sign, but I can only guess. And he high-fived me, and then like we had this little chat, and like 2 minutes later we were both like, okay, so bye. So yeah, I really held back the urge to like smile at his son and point at him and be like, I sucked daddy's dick, but I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't want to be the crazy guy from the big city. But it really so. My point of the story, besides it being like, oh my God, such Mercury retrograde to see him, is that obviously after seeing him, the first thing I did was posting that on our Instagram. And I was like, you know what, why not share with 100,000 people what just happened to me? And then someone wrote back and they said, this is actually really positive because Mercury retrograde is there to show you what are the things that, you know, are coming back that either shouldn't be in your life, or what are the things that like, it's kind of like a mirror, like a black mirror. And I was like, that's so true, because he was like the negative, you know, like when you take pictures on film and then there's like the negative, is that how you call it? Like the film?
Yes.
And like it shows you the opposite. I was like, going back to Tel Aviv, single life, like doing my own thing, and he was walking around with his family. We could literally be each other's opposites. And when this person wrote to me on Instagram, I was like, yeah, that's like a good reminder of like everything that I'm trying to run away from.
Wow. So, yeah. I couldn't agree with that reflection more. I have 2 questions about your experience with your love of your life. Yeah. Number 1, was either of his 2 boys named after you that you know of?
I really wanted them to be, but no.
Okay.
There's another slap on my little face.
Yeah, how dare you? Number 2, when you were talking about that movie moment when him and his fiancée presented at your house and invited you to their wedding, like in my head, that movie moment has Robin's Dancing on My Own playing.
Definitely.
What song is playing for you? Because I was thinking that probably happened before that song existed, and your love for him happened before that song was incarnated. You didn't have that song of like, I'm sad and I'm happy and I'm free, but I just want to be in a partnership, but I want to dance, and it's all the same, and all this feeling is happening all at once. What song comes up for you when you think about that moment?
I remember growing up, one of the most, like the songs I related to the most was Mad World, and like especially the lyric. And I find it kind of funny. I find it kind of strange. The dreams of which I'm dying are the best I ever had. And I think that and I would be like so proud of that. Obviously, as a teen, like an emo teenager, I'd be like, oh my God, this is about me. Looking back, I'm like, why did no one diagnose me? And like, no one asked me how I was. But to your question, I don't know. I think once you said Robin Dancing on My Own, like I can't think of any other songs that would fit better. And
I love though that question of why didn't anyone ask me how I was or diagnose me? I mean, they would have had to know that you were there. Like, also, a bit of a spoiler alert for anyone that's listened to our earlier episodes, you will be familiar with the fact that Itai spent most of his waking life going to a mini zoo that was one of the few recreational things that could be done in your religious community out in the settlements. So, maybe they didn't have time to diagnose you because you were spending too much time with the animals, because maybe you're an animal empath. But yes, dancing on my own is really the gift that keeps giving to anyone having that very moment. I think, but back to your point around Mercury retrograde and that beautiful reframing that someone on the Astrology Roast Instagram has gifted the world.
Yeah.
I think it can be used to our advantage, but it does require a different relationship with this movement. It happens 3 or 4 times a year. It happens a lot. I will always defend the planet of Mercury because I think it's often misunderstood. And I'm also starting to defend the planet of Pisces, and I don't know why or where that's happening. Something has shifted with my relationship with that water sign. I think I had an astrological reading and I was told I might, the love of my life might be a Pisces sign, so I don't know. But I also had an ex-love come back to the country during this time as well, and I similarly was like, oh, here's Mercury retrograde. This is when all these things come back for us to have a look and review them and go over them, and it's a real pain in the butt. But it was a healing, restorative opportunity, and I guess the Mercury retrograde movement, like superficially we can look at technology and we can look at all those things that fuck up and need to, look over our contracts. But if you take a more spiritual reflection on it, it's your chance to just check in with what's the direction that you're going in and to relinquish control and to just surrender into things not working and things going backwards and then forwards and then sidewards. And I think we live in a pretty crazy, chaotic time, a mad world, if you let me steal that lyric. A world in which sometimes we're dancing with others and sometimes we're dancing with our own, and it's both okay. And yes, I have been watching a lot of Sex and the City till 1 a.m. lately, so I seem to be summarizing all my points with talking to camera or to screen, but no one's listening or no one's filming me, so I keep on having summarizing things, and people are like, hey, what, are you trying to be in Sex and the City now? I'm like, no, this is just how I communicate. But it's over soon, so for those that are not as comfortable with this transit, we'll be out of it soon, and soon we're also going to be in Aries season, and we love Aries season here at Astrology Roast, do we not,
Yes.
Itai?
Oh, we sure do. It's like that sweet beginning of the year, full of promise and energy.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't wait. So can we talk about the new man in your life?
Oh my gosh, people, I felt like a lot of people are listening to this and now are like, oh my God, are going to text me and be like, oh my God, who's the new person? Like, what's happening? No, there isn't a new man in my life, or not a new man in the traditional sense. So again, a spoiler alert to some of our previous episodes. Sometimes I make up stories. Sometimes things come out of my mouth that sound so articulate and truthful when I say them, even though they are completely untrue. And recently, a similar thing has occurred. Now I'm a bit more older, hopefully wiser, probably just more messed up. But I now know that I don't have to lie. I don't have to create stories. Anyway, basically, in short, I've moved to a new side of town, to a new place, and woe betide that there are neighbours downstairs who scream and swear and cause a lot of noise. I refer to them lovingly as my boys because they're these 2 kids, and I'm sure they mean well, but they swear all the time. So I feel like now I'm a single mum making ends meet with 2 kids. Literally, I can hear the voices of them underneath my rug and, in my living room. And so, yeah, hats off to any mums out there with teenage twin boys. I'd actually love to know what their star signs are because I'm pretty sure they're twins, but they are horrible. and they swear a lot and they cause a lot of noise. They listen to Australian rock, which, not everyone that listens to our show is Australian, but Australian rock has a very specific time and place next to the barbecue when people are wasted, when your, racist uncle is telling you something derogatory about, women's roles in the workforce or something like that. That's where Australia rock fits. It doesn't fit in your apartment that you've tried to make nice and tried to create a sanctuary for yourself. It doesn't quite work. Anyway, these are my boys. I guess in addition to my two new teenage boys in my life, who I adore, obviously, I also have another new man that you're referring to. So I decided that the noise that was happening was, got to go, needed to be resolved. So I wanted to write a strongly worded, pithy, quick, to the point note that said, hey, shut the fuck up and thank you kindly, love you, Mum. No, love you, the neighbours upstairs. So I wrote the note 20 million times. I've got the handwriting of a doctor, a sailor. I don't know what the term is, but I have atrocious handwriting. I always have, always will. And I wrote this note with my hands and I got really sore from it, writing again, note after note, practicing it, trying to make it look crafted and respectful, but also straight to the point. And as I did the first note, I signed it off, thanks heaps, Karen. So Karen is my name that I use when I want to be de-identified. It's like the mask that I wear. It's not my name. My real name is Karen with an E, but Karen is my kind of, Australian assimilation name. And then the second or third notes, I signed off the notes Karen and Brett. Then it became Brett and Karen. And who's Brett? So who is Brett? Well, I tried to think of names that would sound like I'm in a heteronormative couple, maybe mid-20s, late 30s that's just moved in. And I wanted it to sound like, I'm a bit of a nag. So I'm annoying. I'm Karen. I'm just this annoying partner who's like forced her partner to write this note and has been complaining all the time. And Brett or Christian or Jaden or Jack, I don't know, I had a few different names in my Chris. They are just strong, stocky, supportive, quiet boyfriend that also can, has a really deep voice and can move into action really quickly if needed. So I wanted them to feel a bit threatened by my normie lifestyle. So yes, I have created a new imaginary partner named Brett, and he lives with me in this apartment, and he only exists on that very note that I still haven't given to my boys downstairs because I keep on thinking, well, it's a bit passag and also it ain't going to do nothing, and let them listen to their Australian rock like it's a dying art. And, it's just good that they're listening and they're going to bed early and, stick in school and all that. So yeah, I've got a new man in my life, and I have since decided upon reflection that maybe I need to stop creating those stories. Like, why do I need to pretend that my name is Karen, and B, I have an imaginary boyfriend that lives with me called Brett that does not exist. I love Brett. I just thought that it would, present more of a unified kind of chilled response, because I'm not chilled. I'm, quite on edge and restless and all of that. So I just wanted to wear a different mask. I wanted to be another person. And again, I'm hearing Robins dancing on my own playing as I say this. It really is the song that keeps giving, as I just said earlier. But yeah, I just was like, I need that crutch. And maybe, again, I'm sounding like a Sex and the City episode, but maybe we don't need crutches. Maybe we don't need Bretts, and we can just be our true Karen selves. And that's more than enough.
Wow, definitely. But I do love what a change of a letter in your name, like from Karen to Karen, and a change of a person that you just made up, like the difference that they can make.
Yes, doesn't it create a whole different energy? It's like when you used to refer to yourself from time to time as Ethan instead of Itai when you were ordering a soy latte. That gives a whole nother energy. You become a full MTV backup dancer / the sixth Backstreet Boy versus, as you described yourself, a gay religious boy that grew up in the periphery of Israel that's making ends meet in Tel Aviv. Like you get to transport into another version of yourself that has it a lot easier, that has access at the table, that people listen to, that has nice handwriting and a good paying job and, doesn't complain a lot but knows how to look after themselves and arc up if they're being disrespected and has a strong sense of self and who they are in the world. Like, it's nice to wear that hat from time to time. It is a real privilege.
Let's just say that Brett and Ethan don't listen or don't even know who Robin is and what Dancing on My Own is. Like, they never heard the song.
They don't need that song. That's the point. They don't need that song.
Maybe the only thing, like, what actually is, like, Brett and Ethan are just white straight boys. So, they're just happy. I actually thought about it because I was talking to a few of my students and we were talking about minorities and inequality, and like obviously there's the white boys that always say like, I don't understand, like we were talking about a friend. It was this conversation with my students, and then it was a conversation with my friends, and one of my friends' partner is like has like all these buildings that he inherited from people and from his family, and then someone said that's privilege, and their partner said no, like they're just really nice, like they're not, they haven't achieved all of these because they are privileged, they're just really nice. That was his argument. And everyone was
check and mate. Yeah, well, I think Brett and Ethan are really nice guys. Like, they're
really
guys.
They're really nice, and that guy is also really nice. But it was a hilarious conversation of like trying to change the word privilege with nice, and like so basically everyone that's privileged, they're not, all the things they're gaining is not because they're privileged, it's because they're nice. And I just thought like, so when I was speaking to my students, I thought when we step outside of the world, when we step outside of our homes, how does the world respond to us? Like, does the world respond to us with a smile, or does the world respond to us with like questions and judgment and blah, blah, blah? So I think Brett and Ethan, like, because they're so nice, because they're such nice people, when they step outside of their home, I think the world, like, really hugs them and welcomes them. And,
yes, it does. And it's so easy to be complicit in this. I mean, I've already outlined how I just created an imaginary white man living with me just to communicate a really basic need to not hear swearing and fighting where you live. And yeah, the more I think about it, the more I realize that it's a really sad thing that comes to mind, that, you need to do that. And I think it's shifting. Like, I know that every kind of generation and movement has different qualities to it. So I know that maybe, younger women and other people don't need to create a Brett or an Ethan, and maybe they're going to become irrelevant, and we're not going to need these nice boys anymore to help us feel like we deserve the very basic human rights that people do deserve. Not that I'm comparing my situation to a human rights challenge. I know that it is in of itself a very privileged position to be in. We're all activists in our own way, I guess. But yeah, it's a bit messed up. I had a similar situation also that happened recently. Very fitting. Again, this Pisces energy is just rolling over me like a wet towel, and I can't really escape it. But I was interviewing people for housemates, and this Pisces Jesus Christ lookalike was one of the applicants, and I just was like, well, I don't know if I'm how I'm reading him, as you said, Itai, about how we welcome people in the world and what response they get. So, this beautiful Pisces Jesus person all of a sudden I felt like, oh my gosh, it's okay that you don't have a job. I don't care if you pay the bills. That's fine. Like, he left his headphones and then he left and he had to come back to get his headphones. Then he also left his backpack and he went and had to come back and get his backpack. And I was like, wow, this is a true dreamy Pisces that is in his own experience of the world. But it's amazing, like, some people you respond to with this kind of smile or wanting to give or offer or bend over backwards, and it's subtle and it takes you over. So yes, I'm not sure where this story goes, but I do lie sometimes, and I'm sorry, and I'm changing, and I'm working on it. And for anyone that's listening, if your name is Brett and you're a white guy, and you have a spare couple of hours to donate to me, I might need your assistance in the next couple of weeks to rein my ratty kids in. So hit us up if you know a Brett that's got some time and lives in Melbourne to make my lie a reality. That would be great. But yeah, I'm deeply ashamed. And I wonder if anyone out there has ever done the same thing. Like, have you ever adjusted your name to sound different, on a resume or with people? Have you ever created an imaginary person and written that in a note to give to your neighbours? Have you had a similar experience? Please let us know so I feel less ashamed.
Definitely. I'm sure people have done it. I'm sure the listeners of the podcast have done it. Like, it's... I think people do it more than we think. But I also
Have you done it? Have you done it?
Well, to me, it's really difficult to lie. Yeah, so
okay. So is the inverse of that comment that for me it's very easy to lie?
No.
I don't do it all the time. I'm very, very truthful 99% of the time. In fact, I would say the 2 times I've lied, I've disclosed on this podcast.
No,
otherwise,
but
I'm truthful.
I realized it came across as like, oh, for me it's really difficult to lie, but I'm not saying that as like you are lying. I'm saying for me, anything that isn't like, that I don't see as truth, like I can't, it's not like, even in a negative way it could happen, I'm just like, I feel like I judge myself the second I say something that isn't like 100%. If I make a mistake by telling you a story and I'm telling you that I met someone at 5 and I actually met them at 5:20, like I'll go back and I'll correct that. I'll be like, oh no, sorry, it was 5:20. Like I get that. I don't know. It's not like a good thing. Anyway, nothing about me is good. You should know that by now.
I disagree. I definitely disagree. And also I think the word lying, sometimes we use the word duplicitous to refer to lying. And I love the word duplicitous. I think it just sounds really sensual. Duplicity being, when you say one thing and you mean the other and you're not being truthful. But I think lying can be a survival strategy. So again, I'm all about the reframe at the moment. I mean, we spoke also many episodes ago about flirting is not cheating. And I'm going to say that lying is not necessarily bad, and sometimes it's a survival strategy. That is my reframe for this Mercury retrograde in Pisces. But go on.
Well, I just wanted to bring up that I realized that even now, like, your coping mechanism, it has to do with being a Gemini. And it made me thought also about like different star signs, and obviously my star sign, and the fact that for me, in order to get something done or to do something, I need a bet. Like,
yes,
if I wanted,
you do.
I was thinking about how much I wanted to read a book for so long, and then I made a bet with someone that I'll read this book. They didn't even want to make a bet. I was like, okay, I'll bet you that I can read this book in a month. And then, like, no, it wasn't like, okay, like whatever, like let's do this bet that only benefits you. But then I read the book. So I thought maybe I should start living my life, even at work. You know how there's the struggle whether to make lunch and bring your lunch from home or to go out and get lunch and buy lunch. And then obviously it's like less healthy and it's more expensive and it's shit. Like, it's delicious. So yes. I really wanted to start making my own lunch and save some money. So I got into the office and I said, like, I swear in front of all of you that next week I will only bring lunch from home. And everyone looked at me, and then they were like, okay. And then one person joined and another person joined. So that was cool. But it became this bet. And that was the only week that I really didn't bring any, that I only brought lunch from home. So I feel like maybe I should start living my life just with bets, just like bet on everything.
Yes, but I think your Outlook calendar is part of that strategy for you as well. I think the bet definitely works for you. I have done a few bets with you, and it's always very unsatisfying because I like to change the parameters of the bet. I forget about the bet, or I use bets as a way to wish that something will happen. So it'll usually be relational. Again, it's a Gemini quality. It's all about relationship and other people, but it'll usually about like, will they call me again? Do you think they'll call me again? And you were always like, they will call you again. Like, it's okay. We've had this discussion every week for the last 6 weeks. They're going to call you again. This isn't over. And I would just be like, no, let's make a bet. And if I win, I forget, we did make a bet on that. I forget actually what the prize was, because for me, it's not about the outcome. It's just about a chance to talk about, love that's lost or love that I'm yearning for. It's just a chance to talk, basically.
The bet was about someone contacting you, and the prize was you joining me to a dance class, which we never did.
Oh, we never did. Oh my God, we need to do a Robin dancing on my own dance class, which hopefully we'll do in Israel, depending on the coronavirus situation, which is a whole nother thing that's been going on, which we don't have to cover here. But yes, I think your bet mentality is a great strategy, and also your Outlook calendar is critical to your success as a human being as well. I feel like once something is in your Outlook calendar, it is like the Torah, it is the Bible, it's written in law, and you do not ever miss it or let it down.
Thank you to my Virgo moon. So,
yes,
Karen, is there anything on this retrograde, on this episode, that we need to cover, that we owe our listeners a response to, or anything
that we need to go over? Well, we've recorded this 3 times,
yes,
but I think it's gotten more
sure.
beautiful, more beautiful every single time. I think we've covered it, but I'd invite people to let us know if we haven't covered it. I just want to encourage anyone that's listening to embrace, if you can, this time. I feel it's hard, and I keep reminding myself every time that it's Pisces season, I always will look at 1 or 2 photos of Riri to ground myself and to remember the strength that a Pisces can hold. One of my dear, dear best friends is about to have a Pisces. Like, she made it with her body, with her whole body, and, some sperm from another Brett. And... and I think she's like, oh, Pisces. I'm like, no, there is this psychic, beautiful power to the Pisces. I think we forget because maybe they're always like strung out, or they're living in another space cadeted place. But there is this kind of strength and fortitude of this season. And for anyone that loves a bit of depth, and I actually adore depths from time to time, it's kind of my thing that I'm drawn to because I'm so much filled with air. But it's a beautiful opportunity to kind of touch those sensitive spaces with love and nurture and compassion, and just move into that a little bit. And I love that. So I'd invite everyone just to enjoy these last kind of this week of it, or few weeks. Soon it's going to get hectic. Your parties are going to be, full. You're not going to have time. You're going to be starting all these crazy new projects and wanting to have sex with everyone, and everything's going to get bonkers and fun and wild for a little bit as well, which is great, but we're not there yet. And this moment has a different sensuality and pleasure to it. So I think it's great. And probably that didn't answer your question of if we needed to review anything, but that
Definitely.
is my message.
I want to bet everyone that I'm going to clean my room and shower tonight. And I bet you all that I'll do it. And I want to thank you, Karen, for showing up to another episode, and I want to thank the listeners for showing up to another episode of Astrology Roast.